Don't make sure the night before you go meet with this potential target that either pretty women or Wall Street or other people's money, that's Danny DeVito, let's see, Mike Douglas. Make sure none of those moves are playing. Also make sure, you can't really control this, but if you're doing an election year and you get Mitt Romney running or my former colleague Bruce Rauner when he was running for governor, all these political ads saying, these robber barons, they bankrupt these companies. And that's how we get a name. It's just perception. Anyway, now I'm going to touch on the theme, sort of back to my domain expertise theme, is, the 2 points of control and part of the management team. I think the key objective is when you have a target in mind and you're trying to court this potential seller, is what is his or her objectives post-closing? They want to retire completely, they want to get out, or they just want to take some chips off the table? Because that's a very important distinction in terms of how your pitch should work with that owner. If if they want to exit completely and they want to retire, they're older, burned out, want to do something else, whatever reason, then it's more transactional. If it's one where they're kind of intrigued with the recapitalization, recap meaning they sell a minority or majority stake in the company that retain 20-40%. That's a whole different situation because they're not really a seller. In that case, they're more looking for a partner because they want to keep doing what they're doing. And if you're coming in as the executive, and particularly if you've got domain expertise, they may be a little threatened and say, okay, what's your role? Do you want my job? You're going to take over. So I just have a very open discussion because, at least for us and probably many others in this room that are private equity investors, is we have flexibility. If they want to exit completely, that's fine. We'll find replacement on a quarterly basis. Maybe it's you as the executive. Probably that's why you're doing this to start with, is to look for your next full-time opportunity. But if they want to stay on, then I think it's important that you put them at ease. Like, look, I'm not taking your job. Rather, I'm going to be a board member. I have a lot of contacts in the industry. I'm going to be able to help. It's all about how can we help versus threatening. And that's not smoke and mirrors. I mean, that's really the truth because it'll all work itself out. I mean, if the partnership's not going to work, we actually prefer if the company's well run, is doing well, and that entrepreneur wants to keep growing the company, he's going to maintain a 40% stake. Then, if it ain't broke, they'll fix it. And we'd just like to perhaps augment the team, add some value at the board level, and and hopefully that helps the company grow, but not do a wholesale change of the business. So I have an open discussion there, and that's always going to be learned in the back of their mind in terms of why are you here? What's in it for you? So I would put them at ease and just be very open with them and try to.
I can't remember which one of the four addresses, but my first comment is that all those four things are real. I mean, we're kidding ourselves with private equity. But my point is that a $25 million EBITDA company that Harris Williams sells for 10 times and they lever it up 7 times, they're going to make a bunch of changes and they're going to need to make a return. And that's still called private equity. But yet, Steve and Jeff and Chip find a company, back somebody, work the deal. That's called private equity. I mean, it's sort of a misnomer because they're not the same animal, but yet they get called the same thing. So that's my first comment, because those bigger deals.
Is there a way you can think of a company like Jeff's or Bill Kids to be upfront about how different they are? What can you recommend? Or executives to be upfront. I can tell you like what I use in my conversation with owners, but I would be very curious to know what you would recommend.
My view is you use that list and sort of flip it on its head and you say, you should be asking these 4 questions. This should be your diligence list of us. And then if you're guilty of those 4, then I can't help you. But if you're not, I would be more proactive. We use the word proactive sometimes. I would be more proactive. I'm sure you've seen Pretty Woman. Here's why we're not.
He improved at the end of the movie, right? He became a good guy.
Yeah, right. But anyway,
Don't say greed is good.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's two different it's just two different animals that we call the same thing, and I think that's the biggest problem. So the other point I want to make was leverage. Like Bill said, most of these companies are cigar box companies, so typically there's not a CFO type level, and now you are a business operating in a leveraged environment. Whether it's over levered or not, there's more than likely going to be leverage as part of the transaction. So typically that is a change for the company to go from an unlevered, owner-owned, where cash is whatever you want it to be, is a lot different than the demands of a senior bank or a sublender that has monthly, quarterly requirements. But I would say that the positive, though, by working with a private equity fund, is they have relationships with lenders that they've worked with on a number of deals. You're not having to go knock on every door of a bank and deal with strangers. You're dealing with people that they have long-term relationships with, and you get the value of that in these smaller deals that everybody knows it's not if, it's when something's going to go wrong. And so ideally, you're more than likely you're not going to be involved with a lender that doesn't get it. And then as far as control, my thought on that is the good private equity guys that I've seen know that what they're really good at is valuing companies. They know what multiples of certain EBITDA are worth, right? This type of business is worth 5 times. Their EBITDA is worth 5 times. This type of EBITDA is worth 7 times. This type is worth 3 times. So, you guys know how to drive a new dollar of revenue and how that correlates to a dollar of profit and how that correlates to a dollar of EBITDA. Good private equity guys should be able to say, or gal, sorry, that dollar of EBITDA is worth 3 times. We should think about that. That dollar of EBITDA is worth 7 times. We should really be thinking about that. And it might be cutting people, it might be adding people, that's where you guys have the expertise. But I think a good private equity professional is driving value, equity value, and helping you shape the strategy so that the equity value, because ultimately there's an exit, whether it's IRR, cash on cash, or 5 years, or 7 years, or 10 years, everybody's driving to an exit value, and that's going to be driven off of multiple EBITDA. So
following up on what Chris started, I think part of the issue is everything lumped in and is just general private equity. There's even the third class, which can create the most confusion, which is when people are doing turnarounds. Obviously, if you're buying something that's already troubled, one of the obvious playbooks is to shed off the non-conforming assets or focus on your core competencies. And one of the things back when Romney was running, they kept running these ads of people out on the street and complaining about being fired. But a lot of that, even though it comes across as negative, they probably saved some companies out there by focusing on saving the business. But so for us, we're focused in this really lower middle market. You don't tend to have those sort of issues. So it's not really even usually on the playbook to come in and chop up something that's 30 million in revenue. It would be more focusing on the business. I'll address the sort of the we'll come in and fire everyone stuff. I think that that's definitely a reputation in some categories at some sizes. What I find is more frequent for what I'm dealing with is, I look at it, you come in and it would be hubris to think you could know who you need to fire early on without intel. So in my mind, it really is a misnomer in applied down market. And my relationship is one of asking and finding out who the performers are. And what can happen, and it may not be perceived accurately down through the organization, is good operators start holding people accountable. And that accountability comes with metrics and data, and then quickly people are identified as performers or non-performers based upon those metrics and the information flowing up. And that can produce some change and some firing, but it's not undeserved, and it might seem random to some people, but it's usually not. And the other comment I would make is sometimes I'll tell you a funny story, CEOs use me as the villain to get rid of somebody that's their friend. So I know this guy's horrible, but I know his family and I can't get rid of him. Can you come in and do my work for me. So one story, we ended up not able to buy this business for other reasons, but I was coming in.
Like a good cop and bad cop
Yes,
situation?
good cop, and well, I didn't have a choice but to be the bad cop. So I came in, it was like, maybe we were 60 days into the deal. And I was meeting with the CEO, and he said, Chip, come in here. I said, yeah, I said, I gotta tell you, I need you to meet with my son. I'm like, why? He said, I didn't tell him I added back half his salary. So I had to go in and tell him what I do is grossly over it as the company had an EBITDA of about $7 million, and as head of sales and marketing, a VP title, he was making $600,000 a year. And so I had to go and tell him his salary was basically being cut to about, I think it was like 175 or 200 or something like that. And they can imagine how that conversation
Did you tell him to make it up on his estate?
Actually, I didn't tell him that. I told him to blame his mom. But anyway, so that was a good example of what I was talking about. And there's all sorts of stuff you can run into. And, you know, maybe he viewed us as the big bad people at that point.
Sure.
You may be describing a situation that was already a turnaround. So it was EBITDA was higher, and it became lower, and it becomes more stressful. I'm not sure if that's the situation, but that may be the case. But anyway, we always look for, you want to have at least a 25% cushion on your EBITDA. Your EBITDA could decline by that much before you would trip up a covenant, and hopefully even more. What we try to do is we negotiate with the lenders because we're not going to take as much leverage as perhaps the market will bear. In return, we want looser covenants. So that's the truth.